All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Nick Strength and Power. So it's been quite the eventful weekend in bodybuilding news. So I've got a lot of interesting stories for you guys today. The first story, there was a pro show this past weekend, the IFBB Portugal Pro. It was an Olympia qualifying show, and the winner of that show did, in fact, qualify for the Olympia. So this was kind of a surprise result here, because you had a couple top guys who just competed in Vancouver at the Vancouver Pro. You had Lucas Osladil, you had Ian Vayer. So these guys were really expected to be the front runners. Probably one of these two guys was expected to win this show. But you kind of had a guy come out of nowhere and win named Mohammed Shaban. So Mohammed did, in fact, look fantastic here, and he nabbed that Olympia qualification away from Ian Vayer and Lucas Osladil. So we will be seeing Mohammed at the Olympia, and it's kind of up in the air now whether or not we're going to be seeing Ian Vayer and Lucas Osladil. Most likely, their next opportunity to try to qualify is going to be the Tampa Pro. So if we see either of these two guys compete in Tampa, that's probably going to be one of their last opportunities to really qualify for the Olympia on points, or on the off chance that one of these two guys wins that show in Tampa, which is the next point that I wanted to get to here, is Luke Sandoe recently announced that he was going to be competing at the Tampa Pro. So right now, the roster for the Tampa Pro, you've got Dexter Jackson and Luke Sandoe, probably the two biggest names competing there. Luke was originally going to try to qualify for the Olympia on points because he was, and I believe he still is, in the top three in point standings for the Olympia. But I guess he wanted to really solidify that Olympia qualification by actually winning a show and getting to the Olympia on the merit of a show rather than just the merit of points, which I think is a smart decision, because I think, like, this year, the Olympia, the top six, is wide open. And for a guy like Luke Sandoe, I think he is one of the top prospects to maybe crack that top six, a guy that hasn't been in the top six at the Olympia before. So for Luke to do a show like Tampa, win that show, that would generate a lot of conversation about Luke and a lot of momentum for Luke going into the Olympia, especially because that would mean he would have to beat a guy like Dexter Jackson. And if we see guys like Ian Vayer and Lucas Osladil, those are two very good IFBB pros, and Luke beats them as well. A lot of momentum for Luke going into the Olympia. So I think it's a good idea for him to do that show, even if he doesn't win. Being beaten by Dexter Jackson is really not a bad thing, considering the fact that Dexter Jackson is Mr. Olympia. So really, it looks to me like worst case for Luke Sandoe would be first call-out, neck-and-neck comparison with Dexter Jackson, who, again, is a former Mr. Olympia winner. It could only be a good thing for Luke Sandoe to compete in this Tampa Pro. And I'm actually really excited to see how he looks in Tampa, because Tampa is so close to the Olympia. It's really a very good preview of how Dexter's going to look, how Luke is going to look, and to see those two go head-to-head, Dexter, who has been kind of a perennial top guy at the Olympia, and again, a former Mr. Olympia winner, it's going to be good for Luke to get those comparisons and stand next to Dexter at a show like this. And if he beats Dexter, like I said, a tremendous feather in his cap and a tremendous amount of momentum going into the Olympia. So I wish Luke Sandoe the best of luck. I think this is going to be a great opportunity for him in Tampa. I think he's actually going to do very well, and I think he stands a chance of winning that show in Tampa. Now, we've talked about guys that have qualified for the Olympia and guys that we're going to be seeing at the Olympia in September. Let's talk about a couple guys that either aren't going to be there or might not be there. So let's start out here with Josh Lenartowicz, who just announced on Instagram that he will not be competing, it looks like, the rest of 2019, which includes the Olympia, actually due to health issues, which is kind of a surprising announcement from Josh. He put up this post saying, "This is just a quick note to let you know that I'm currently dealing with a health issue that requires me to step back from social media and public interaction for a brief while." So not just from competing, but also from social media and going out in public. So it sounds like a pretty serious health issue. Now, Josh does not specify in this post what that health issue is, which left a lot of people wondering how serious it could be and what this might mean for the future of Josh as far as a competitive bodybuilder. To me, it looks like it might be something serious. Now, Josh goes on to say in this post there's no need for panic and that he'll be fine, but he just needs some time and space to heal and get back to full health. And then he says he's going to share in greater detail down the road, but for now he just wanted to say that he's going to be absent for a while, not responding to comments, and it looks like he's not going to be competing anytime soon. So I, for one, am a big fan of Josh's physique. I really like the conditioning that he brings to the stage. I do hope we see Josh on stage again, and I hope that he gets better. Whatever health issue he's having is something that he's going to be able to get over and continue bodybuilding and just end up being fine. So I do wish Josh the best. Now, talking about guys that might not be at the Olympia, Hadi Choopan, who just won the Vancouver Pro in men's open bodybuilding, qualifying him for the men's open or the 212 Olympia, whichever one he decides to do. In the past, the talk has been that Hadi Choopan should do the 212 Olympia because he's come so close to beating Flex Lewis in other shows like the Asia Grand Prix. The main conversation was that Hadi stood a good shot of winning the 212 Olympia. But this year, considering the fact there's no Shawn Rhoden, no Phil Heath, no Big Ramy, no Kai Green, the fact that Hadi can do so well in a men's open lineup and win a show like the Vancouver Pro and beat guys like Nathan Diasha, Ian Valle, Lucas Osadil, guys that are much, much bigger than he is, much taller, more muscle mass, pound for pound, just bigger than him. The fact that he can fare that well in a lineup like that, it also begs the question with the Olympia and men's open wide open this year. Could we see Hadi compete in the men's open Olympia, and could we see Hadi in the top 6 or even win the men's open bodybuilding Mr. Olympia? We've had shorter guys in the past like William Bonac place top 3 at the Olympia in men's open bodybuilding. So could a shorter guy like Hadi that's very complete, has insane conditioning, if he's able to make it to the Olympia, could men's open be a possible route for him? Now, due to the fact that Hadi Choopan is an Iranian bodybuilder, President Trump's travel ban for Iranian nationals is the primary reason why we haven't seen Hadi compete at the Olympia. But the fact that he was able to get into Vancouver, Canada, might make it a little bit more possible for him to get into the United States. And commenting on this situation was the Chief Olympia Officer, Dan Solomon, saying the Mr. Olympia competition was created to bring the best in the world together to compete for bodybuilding's most coveted title. Now, Hadi Choopan has proven he is one of the best in the world in both 212 and men's open bodybuilding. So Dan says in this statement, he's trying to grow the event and they're trying to make this happen. They're trying to get Hadi to the Olympia, and this objective remains a priority to get Hadi to the Olympia. Now, this travel ban might be something that the Olympia can't overcome, but Hadi does have a U.S.-based sponsor in Evogen Nutrition, and the Olympia are both working together to help facilitate Hadi's ability to participate in the 2019 Mr. Olympia, which is something I think a lot of us would really like to see, whether it's 212 or men's open. I think Hadi could be a dominating factor at the Olympia. Now, finally here, I wanted to touch on this final topic that pretty much everybody has been talking about over this weekend, is the story broke by Ron Harris of Muscular Development, where Ron said that a source confirmed to him that Shawn Rhoden did in fact pass 2 separate lie detector tests. So I guess the standard polygraph test, then a different form of lie detector test that kind of detects the movement in your eyes to determine whether or not you're telling a lie. And apparently Shawn was able to pass both lie detector tests. Now, what does this mean? What type of questions was Shawn Rhoden asked? Now, we do not know the specific questions that Shawn was asked for these lie detector tests. So the fact that he passed does not necessarily tell us a whole lot. Now, Ron did say in his video that the nature of the questions pertain to whether or not the alleged incident was consensual. And Shawn's answers were an affirmative answer, saying yes, he believed that the incident was consensual. So after these results came out, I got a lot of messages of people thinking, okay, this means Shawn is innocent. Shawn's been framed. I've heard all kinds of different conspiracy theories about the accuser, just everything in general. I just wanted to point out here that number one, lie detector test results are not admissible in court, and there's a reason for that. So could these test results point to Shawn being innocent? Absolutely, they could. Could these lie detector tests mean absolutely nothing? That's also a possibility as well, because you've got to consider the fact that the questions being asked, if they were pertaining to whether or not the act was consensual, this is asking Shawn whether or not he thought it was consensual. This is not asking Shawn whether the accuser thought it was consensual. So there is the possibility that, yes, Shawn 100% believed or convinced himself or truthfully thought that what happened was consensual. But that does not necessarily mean the accuser thought it was consensual, because this is a very, very subjective line of questioning. And again, we don't know specifically how these questions were phrased. It's really hard to draw any conclusions from these lie detector test results, not knowing exactly what was asked. Now, in a lie detector test situation where you're asking a very objective question, that is a straight up yes or no, what's your name? What's your date of birth? Things like this that are objective, you can figure out if the person's lying. If Shawn's name is Shawn and he says his name is Derek, that would come back as a lie. And that's a very verifiable lie because it's a very objective question. And of course, different people are going to have different definitions of what consensual is. And there's just a lot of factors to consider here in a lie detector test situation about an incident like this. That's all I'm pointing out. not taking sides here. I'm just saying I would wait for all the information to come out in court before we jump to any conclusions about these lie detector test results, because they could really mean anything. Again, we don't know what other questions were asked. We just know one specific line of questioning. And even in that situation, we don't know what the questions actually were. So that wraps it up for the video today, guys. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about all the stories mentioned in this video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Please subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed already for more info and updates on all these stories, and of course, Olympia updates as we get closer to the Olympia. As always, thank you guys for watching. Nick Strength and Power, signing out. All right, so I went out in the pouring rain to find this. The new Muscle and Fitness August edition. Who's that guy? Who's that guy? How cool is that?